Bomberman Fantasy Race is a kart racer, but also not really a kart racer since you're on top of a bunny or dodongo instead of a kart. Actually, they're more like kangaroos, but I prefer bunnies or rabbits, so I will go with that one. Some people call a tiger also a cat, since technically that's right, but still. It's the kind of game that pulls you in at first with its cute aesthetic, and well, it's Bomberman. Everyone loves Bomberman except for that one, or this one, but that's Bomber Girl after all, a completely different thing, obviously. I drew near as grim on the thumbnail, so I can't even say anything bad about it. All the bombers unite on a space station to have races to see who is the best racist. Because bombing each other all the time gets boring, probably, even though you will still get bombed since Bomberman wouldn't be Bomberman without bombs. So during races you can still throw them and even bomb yourself since that's a good thing in this game if you can do it right. Do not try this at home. If you look for instructions on how to build a bomb, you will most likely get a visit from some nice people and get locked away for a bit. Just ask your science teacher instead. The game will ask you what character you want to play as and there is no difference between them, and I prefer playing as girls in games, so I went with the pretty bomber. I like how the white Bomberman doesn't even get a single line of text, not even something generic like he's the main character of the games. Nothing, he's just that great that you don't even need to say anything about him. And the mech bomber was apparently born to run, but then why is he using an animal to do the running for him? Use your own feet. I can already tell you about one of the coolest things you can do in the game, the bomb boost, where you can throw a bomb a little bit in front of you and if you run or jump through it at the perfect time when it goes off, it gives you a little boost. Which is a neat thing to do, but it's a mechanic that's mostly only gonna be useful on a straight line, and there's not that many in the game really. The most important part of a racing game for me is the handling, and well, it's quite overly slippery and takes a bit of getting used to before you actually get the hang of it, kinda. Even after playing it for a longer time, it just feels hard to really get your animal under control at times. Just like how you will struggle with your inner animal daily. The biggest issue with that is that the game's courses kinda clash with how you control them since there's tons of extremely sharp turns, so sharp you could cut yourself on them. This would maybe work in a game where you feel like you get total control and easily can perfectly cut around the corners like a champion could with his car, but here that feels almost impossible at times without slowing down to a crawl, and nobody wants to go that slow. A good example would be the second to last track you will unlock, the castle. It has tons of rather tight corridors that will make you wonder how can I still get through those without bonking too much, without losing too much speed. Despite that, it's still fun when you let the game be fun. Bite down on your controller and accept it that it controls like this. It's in this weird spot of I like it, but I see why people would call the controls bad, in combination with the really turny tracks. On the very first map, the turns feel like as if they were perfectly made for the game. Then the more tracks you see, the more you start to wonder why they couldn't make more of that, fitting tracks for the way it controls. And to me, it didn't really make much of a difference who I picked. The game says that the dodongos are faster but are harder to control because of that, and the bunnies are easier to handle, but I think the game is lying. Or my brain is just too stupid to notice the difference. They felt the same to play to me. Maybe that's just a total skill issue though. I like to look up long plays and the gameplay of other people to see if I just suck at the game or if it's kinda the norm, and most of them also bonked lots. Unless they were a speedrunner who just bomb jumped through the stages like crazy, so I felt a bit bad about myself. One important thing you have to do often is to jump. Otherwise you would sometimes just fall into a hole, and nobody wants to fall into a hole. Holes scare me. Or the ocean. That one scared me too back in the day thanks to the second season of Digimon. I was a scaredy cat. At one point I actually missed my jump though and found out that the water here does not kill you, and instead it can be used as a shortcut, so sometimes maybe it is actually good to fall down in life to actually get higher than before. Every stage also has a little helper for you to put you back onto the track if you fall off. It also implies that the mountain stage plays in the south of Germany, since the little friend is dressed like how we normally dress like. I don't come from the south, so I don't actually dress like this. I don't even drink beer. How can you tell a person doesn't drink? They will tell you. I also don't even love sausages that much except for currywurst. Am I really a real German? Two other things that will help you out are jumping and items. I already mentioned you can jump, but with the jump you can wall kick when you jump against the wall, and it kicks you away, which helps with the turning when the corner seems too tight. Or it can just mess you up by kicking you into the wrong direction. I didn't use it too much for that. But I used it tons for these paw pads that give you an ultra boost when kicking against them, and they're basically shortcuts when you use them right. Like in the castle stage, you can either do these 90-degree turns that are slow as hell, or try your luck to do multiple wall kicks to leave your opponents into the dust. It will really help you out on that stage since the AI does not even attempt to do it here, or at least I have never seen them try. They do it on the easy tracks, but the harder the tracks go with the wall kicks, they don't really do that anymore. A kart racer would not be a kart racer without items. There's some bomby ones like the classic power bomb that blows up more than a normal bomb, a rocket bomb that flies after the enemies, or the triple bomb, which is just you throwing 3 bombs. The name does not lie about that. The remote control bomb is really useless though, since you will never be able to hit anyone with it, unless you're playing it in multiplayer so you can screen watch when your friend drives past it to detonate it. I like the fake item sign because unlike in Mario Kart, it actually feels strong since it looks like the actual sign without using a different color. So if you are smart enough to place it at a nice spot, you will most likely hit someone with it. Probably. Some of these can also be bought before a race starts, like the roller shoes. You can pick 2 items before each race, and I just never did that. When it comes to the opponents, I think the different racers start with different items. So you may wonder why sometimes someone has a speed boost right at the start and it makes you think, wait, the game has a super start? But it doesn't, it's just someone using his roller shoes. What I kinda like is that the game already allows you to run around before the counter goes down. That's way cooler than a super start, just don't cross the line, and you're not allowed to throw bombs either till the countdown is over. My favorite item must be the poopy. It just makes you animals sit down and take a poop with a cute little bow, so you can't do anything for a bit. It's just kind of funny. I'm not into toilet humor anymore, but it's just so cute here. I know this will sound wrong. I'm a big Dr. Slump fan, and if you ever watched or read that, you will get this point. It also brings back the classic skull item that gives you bad vibes, like switching your control scheme around, not being able to throw any bombs, things like that. The only time it really sucks is when it messes up your controls, because nobody loves it when you go left but it goes right instead. It just messes up my brain even more than the usual person. All the other effects relate to the bombs, which are not really needed anyways. Like I said earlier, or you have also seen it in the gameplay, you can throw bombs. No shit. Hold the button longer to throw it longer. Press it once to just drop it for people behind you. It plays exactly how you would think it plays. It adds another chaotic element to the game, and it makes you happy when you actually hit a long range bomb. To help you out, the game also gives you a bit of an auto aim if someone is close to you, so the chances are higher of hitting. If the enemy is too far away though, then it's time for you to skillfully throw it. What I love is the variety of the tracks. None of them really feel the same. You got a normal racetrack, a cute beach, a theme park, snowy mountains, Germany, a space station and a castle that is built like a Bomberman battle map, kinda. The castle plays on the same track as the theme park even, just a cute little detail. They're not something mind-blowing that makes you think you have never seen scenery like that before, but coupled with the cute look of the game, it makes you think, man, I really love to see this. A thing that disappointed me a bit was that there are no other racers to unlock. You have all of these characters right from the start, and regardless of what you do, you don't get a single other new racer. This is the same mistake Mario Kart 64 did for me. If you give me a kart racer, I need to be able to unlock a cool new racer. Unlocking tracks does not feel as fun. Sure, it's more about the bunnies or the dodongos anyways, but that's where the worst thing about the game comes into the spotlight, the prices of everything. They're way too high and you have to grind to buy the best bunnies, and also even have to grind to buy the tracks that give you more money when you win. So you have to think, oh, do I already want to buy the next bunny, or do I want to buy the track first? I'm already not rich in real life, at least let me feel rich in the game itself. Luckily, you can, if you just play the Japanese version of the game, since the prices are way lower, massively lower. You know what else is massive? I won't even say it since I don't want to outdate my own video with outdated memes. Hyper Louie, the best bunny you can get for the beginning, only costs 2,000 in comparison to 8,000. It may not sound like a lot, only 6k, but trust me, that is a lot of money actually when trying to win, because with Hyper Louie you will have a way easier time. You can just buy him after 3 races in the Japanese version and then breeze through the game with him till you buy Black Louie for 10k, who costs 100k in the American version. Have fun grinding that, because without him the mirror tracks you unlock after beating on normal tracks will be hardcore. Those give a lot of money. Money you will maybe never see, since with Hyper Louie you won't get to beat this unless you become a total pro. I tried the first mirror race without Black Louie and the CPU made me eat dust this time. Was kinda tasty. And you know what's the biggest joke at the end of the game? The last ultimate track you unlock when you have beaten every normal track, every track mirrored, and also paying 10 grand for it, or 5.6k in the Japanese version, a NASCAR racetrack. That can't even be mirrored since it would be the same thing. It's almost like the game just spat into your face and told you, you really wasted all your time for this? I'm happy I never got to unlock this one as a kid, because imagine unlocking this in the Western version of the game. Here in the Japanese one, it took me like 90 minutes to get enough cash to get everything. Quite short, but it was enjoyable. No grinding required really, as long as you win. Can't complain about that. But now imagine doing this when you have to buy the black bunny and the white dodong for 100k each, combined with the fairly high cost of all the other animals and unlocking new tracks and also the mirror versions of them. You have to get everything to unlock this track, which you have to also buy. Let me quote a famous philosopher. What were they thinking? It was nothing out of the ordinary even back in the day to change games and the difficulty based on the region, like how Mega Man 2 got the normal difficulty overseas. I remember hearing the song I Cannot Defeat Airman back in the early days of YouTube and thought, how, that guy is easy as shit. Till I learned Japanese people only had the hard mode, so it actually made sense. Or the company that was the king at changing stuff for no reason at all, Working Designs. They brought over tons of Sega RPGs back in the day that probably never would have gotten a release otherwise, and it's hard to hate on them for that, but they love putting shitty jokes into their games that didn't fit them at all. Sadly, something that still happens nowadays too. But they also changed the stats of the games, often making them way harder, just raising the health of enemies, mana costs and stuff like that. Luckily, many of those games nowadays have patches that change those values to that of the original, if you want the original experience. Just got a little sidetracked here, but it felt fitting to mention it, since here those changes also made the game worse since grinding just sucks. It adds nothing, just tedium, and you don't want that. Since our lives are already tedious enough at times, maybe yours isn't, that would be great. Either way, it just shows the weakness of the game, not having a lot of things to do except the racing part. Sure, that should always be the main focus since it's a racing game, but games like Diddy Kong Racing or Crash Team Racing show that even a kart racer can have an amazing story mode with tons of variety and things to unlock. I also would have wished for the usual Bomberman to be playable, even in just a really short version of it. Just put in 4 maps or something and boom, you got way more content to play with your friends. At least after beating everything, it changes the font of the game's logo into gold. Too bad I could not buy anything with this kind of gold. It didn't make me feel fulfilled after the disappointment of the final track. And I also love the aesthetic like I mentioned earlier. It's just really damn cute, and who hates cute things? Hopefully you don't, or else I will have to hate you. So while it has some flaws and a really big one, it's still a fairly fun game that I still dearly love because I always rented it out from the video store, when video stores were still a thing. The video store I always went to apparently was still the last video store in the city that I lived in back in the day, till recently since Corona gave them the last dagger into their back. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good day, a good night, or a good whatever fits your time zone. If you got interested in playing it yourself, don't forget to play the Japanese version. Even if you can't speak or read it, it's simple enough. But like always, their buttons are changed. X is back and circle is accept, unlike how it was over here all the time till Sony also changed it in Japan. I mean, you can also just change it in the emulator settings so it plays exactly the same. Bye bye.